What's one analytics trend everyone is hyped about, but you think it's very overrated?
Learning tools.
Is AI helping us get better, or is it making us lazy?
Both. I was working for the two most popular male fashion brands in India. And they did not use a lot of analytics at that point of time to make the decisions. It was more based out of gut feeling or more based out of experience. But suddenly, brands like Zara, Forever 21, they came in and kind of disrupted the environment because they brought in fast fashion to India.
What probably is your favorite thing to do with data?
I think my favorite thing to do with data is taking up a problem that needs to be solved, hindsight from data, and also foresight from AI. So it's actually both, but it depends on the problem that you're trying to solve.
Which project in your life felt like this is a plot twist no one saw coming?
The real-time driver scoring system that we launched in India for the first time.
If you had to fire someone in your team, not for performance but for mindset, what mindset would that be?
Not having a learning mindset and not taking feedback positively.
What is a leadership opinion that you hold very closely but other data leaders might disagree with?
Have strong opinions, but hold your opinions loosely.
Hello world, we are here again for the Great Lakes 20-year celebration, and we are having a series of 20 podcasts with leaders in the series called the Leadership Unplugged. Water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink, says the rhyme of the ancient mariner. But data, data everywhere seems to be the new buzzword. And today we have with us Mr. Arpit Agarwal, who's had a 15-year experience across different functionalities and different organizations. Across fintech to fashion, mobility to metaverse, and a rare breed of tech depth and business acumen. Welcome, Mr. Arpit.
Thank you, Ganesh.
You have a very unique transition in the sense that you had a computer science graduation with Pitts Pilani and then worked with SAP and Symantec. And then you did your MBA in finance and marketing, worked as a trading analyst, and here you are with us, helping us understand more about data analytics and data science. How did this transition happen?
I think the way it happened is when I joined computer science, I was actually clueless on what to do. And that seemed like the best thing to do at that point of time. And I got a chance to do it from a good school. But as life went on, I started discovering myself. Like my first company was Oracle after I completed my computer science from BITS. And then I realized that I like it, but probably I don't want to do coding all my life, right? I'm more attached to business. That's where I come from. I come from a family background of businessmen. And I was the first engineer in my family. My grandfather, great-grandfather used to do textile business. So they were somewhere, like business was kind of in my blood and I was missing that. And that's the reason I went on to do my MBA later. Tried out a hand at finance. Finance is something that I like. But then I realized that probably, I did not hit a sweet spot. And after kind of failing multiple times, I realized that I don't want to get stuck in something that I don't like. So I kept trying out new things, one after the other. And as I just said, computer science and then MBA and then equity trading. And when I joined Mu Sigma after my MBA, then I realized that I really love working with data because it's kind of at an intersection of technical aspects plus business knowledge. And you get to apply what you learn from data to improve business decision making. So that's how it happened for me.
Perfect. I think it sounds about the story of a lot of people in India at least, right? So you tried to experiment and get to the spot that you were in. And it's not just, your transition from, the different fields that in terms of education, right? Within the data science field, you've been a data science leader across multiple industries. You've been in the core data, companies like Mu Sigma and Cartesian, you with mobility companies like Zoom. You have with some fashion brands and then like into Meta and now with Zinnia, right? So how does that look like? Like why so many different business lines or verticals, if I can call them?
You can just say I'm just my personality is full of curiosity. I like to try out new things. But see, at the core of it, it looks like they're different industries, but the kind of problems you're solving in these industries are actually the same. the kind of problems that we solve are: how do you retain your customers? How do you grow with more efficiency? How do you pull more efficiency into your operations? Right? How do you launch products? How do you test them? Now, irrespective whether it's fashion, whether it's metaverse, or whether it's mobility, the core of it remains the same. And to like changing industries, a lot of it is more like going with the flow as well. As in, when opportunities came up, I saw that if there is an opportunity to create an impact, if the sector is something that will have a lot of growth in the future, I just leaped on that opportunity and try to do my best.
Got it. But does it also come with certain sense of expertise, right? Say, for example, there is also the school of thought which says that you go with a certain business line or you go with a certain technical line, right? So you've chosen the technical line of sticking to the data, but you've experimented with different business lines. But how does it work the other way around? So if someone who has wants to stick to a single business line, but with different schemes of working, so how do you think that would work?
I think that would work perfectly for some people. For different people, there are different paths of careers. There's no one path. Like, this is my path for someone else. I've had friends who have stayed in industry for 20 years in the same industry, probably in the same company, but doing various different roles. Maybe they started with a data role, they were a product manager, they were a research analyst, right? And you can experiment around. So it's more about what kind of fits you and where you find your happiness and where you feel that you can make an impact. For me, it was more about learning from different industries and seeing how a user interacts with different type of products and how their behavior are different. And one of the challenges with different industries comes is that you have to unlearn a lot. Let's say the learnings that you have from a retail industry might not be the same in the mobility industry, because the users will behave differently towards the product. And some products are more opportunistic, some products are more retentive. For example, a B2B product versus a B2C product, right? They have a total different way of doing analytics. So I realized that I loved having that varied and diverse flavor of understanding analytics and unlearning and then learning new things. And that is what I like. But at some point of time, now I feel that probably we should stick to one industry also for a pretty long period of time, so that you have more depth in your domain knowledge. So for different people, different paths, I would say. Yeah.
Perfect. I think I had a bunch of other questions follow up that you'd already answered all those questions. So yeah. And there's also the saying that data doesn't live in the dashboards, but in the decisions that you make, right?
Yeah.
So what was the moment that you realized that data is not just numbers? It's going to be a lever for transformation in a particular organization, right? So what made you step into that zone?
Yeah, so I vividly remember one of my experiences when I was working in Cartesian Consulting, and I was working for the two most popular male fashion brands in India, and they did not use a lot of analytics at that point of time to make the decisions. It was more based out of gut feeling or more based out of experience, because there was not a lot of breakthroughs into that industry. But suddenly, brands like Zara, Forever 21, they came in and kind of disrupted the environment because they brought in fast fashion to India. And then we realized that probably we need to understand our customers even better, younger customers, because they are changing their preferences. And that kind of brought in a need of using data to make decisions. And there was a project that we did there. It was called Mission Happiness. And the idea was that we want to make our customers happy, and we can only do that by understanding their needs. So we launched in some of the brand stores. On the POS counter, we launched like an iPad with a questionnaire on what are you looking for? Mm-hmm. What did you not get in the store? And this is a very rarely asked question. What did you not get that you were looking for? And once we started analyzing the data, we started revealing a lot of truths. Probably they were looking for print shirts. Probably they were looking for a type of fit that is not available in our store, but available somewhere else. And that's how we started experimenting, using data and building in the confidence in the executive layer to experiment. I think that was very transformative for me to believe that data can actually make better decisions. So,
got it. So, I mean, because you touched upon the fashion industry, and you said that you have your family in the business of the fashion as well. Did that bring in any sort of additional benefits, right, for you? I know this field. I've been with my grandfather or father and know what's happening in this field. So did it make it easier for you to work on this?
Actually, not. And the reason is that my grandfather was in the business of textile, and probably some of my cousins as well. But my dad is a doctor. So for me, it was being an engineer was way beyond what everyone thought I should be. But to me, my fashion sense when I was growing up, I would say that it was below average. So there was nothing that would say that I would love this industry. But sometimes what happens is that experience does not tell what you would like in future. When you actually experience it, and when you are surrounded by good people with a common objective, you get to learn those things, and then you will start liking things. So for me, it was the other way around, where I probably did not know much about fashion, but the environment was so good, and everyone had a common objective of mission happiness for our customers. And that incited or, took out that rigor that, let's learn about our customers and do the best for them. Yeah.
Got it. Should your cousins be scared that you're going to come back to their business and disrupt it?
No. They are very up the value chain of selling raw materials. Right?
Got it. And since we've touched the topic of fashion, so probably a few years before, fashion seems to be more of art. It has artists, there's a lot of voice and so on, right? It has nothing to do with data. And suddenly, like an industry that has nothing to do with data, gets completely overwhelmed with a lot of data and insights. So how did that happen, and how do you think such industries should look at data?
I think the question remains, there are two things that I found useful. First is that, yes, data is very important because everyone is doing it. So you can't be left behind, right? You should have it's a competitive edge. At that point of time, like in 2014 and 15, using data was a competitive edge. Right now it's hygiene. If you're not using it, you're always already behind. But another thing that helped me was the innovation mindset, like always thinking what else. And always thinking from a lens of not what customer needs, but what can delight your customer. How can I make them so happy that they go and talk to 5 of their friends about my brand and then come back and bring them to my store? So you have to set the bar that high and then think about analytics. And I remember one of the things when I was in Zenia Consulting and working for these brands was we built a AI recommender inside the fashion store. And how it worked was basically if someone would come to the store and we would have their past purchase history, let's say, we would know what they're looking for. So there was a system who kind of probably took an image of them and recommended that, based on their past history of preferences of colors and type of style, and then what they're looking for right now, what in the store inventory is best suited for them. Mm-hmm. And then the person who is a sales manager would first show them the things that they are most likely to buy. And that is how you can do targeting even in offline stores.
Understand. That's an interesting way of looking at data for fashion industry. But can you probably walk us through any other interesting insights that you got from running a bunch of different data projects for these fashion brands?
Some of the data insights that we got was, first is that prints was a big thing. Usually before, people only used to buy shirts which are solids, right? Or very vanilla or just stripes and solids. Mm-hmm. And we are having a lot of sales. But then market got disrupted, as I said, when Zara came and other fast fashion brands came, and people started adopting those consumer trends, and they were okay with wearing print shirts in the office as well. And we did not know that. They were okay wearing athleisure clothes, more comfortable style clothes. So the brand, which had a legacy of, let's say, 30, 40 years, always knew that this sells. Now shifting that mindset and breaking that inertia of rest and shifting to another thing, I think that happened, and data played a very big role there.
You've worked with multiple brands. They could be competitors, right? So now comes the question of ethics. So you have access to a lot of sensitive information.
Yeah.
So how do you take that decision of what to use, what not to use you do want to give a competitive advantage to your current customer or the company that you work for, but without having that impact on the competitor, right? Because ethics, values, those do play an important part, at least in the current scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
So how do you manage ethics in terms of data?
Ethics for me is the topmost priority. Data should only be used within the fencing of ethics. And when you say ethics, what does it mean? Right? Ethics could mean using personally identified information of your own customer, right? And without consent, or even the competitor's customer through any means, right? Through web scraping and through other means. Right. So I think this is a very crucial thing that you've touched upon and a part of data governance in a company. That what kind of data can you use? What should be the processes that should be in place so that you make sure that you are ethical and have integrity in the kind of analysis and the insights that you take. Right. Ethics plays a very important role, and we make sure that there's proper data governance before any project is.
So I saw a beautiful note that you penned recently, right, which says that we have all the answers, but it's just that we don't ask the right questions, right? It had opened up a lot of thoughts personally, but can you just elaborate on this line?
Yeah. So there's a very interesting history to this note that I had penned on LinkedIn. And the history is that we are searching for a school for our child. And we recently moved back from London. We were there for 3 years. I was working in Meta, both me and my wife, and we moved back and we're looking for what kind of schools would be good. Now, we had our own understanding of, like, I studied in ICSE board and my wife studies in CBSE board. But for kids, we first tried to think what kind of skill sets we want them to take for future. And the reality is, with the AI tools today, you have all the answers. You ask them any question and they'll give you perfect answers. No human can give you that level of sincerity in answers or that level of accuracy as right now the tools are giving, because the humongous amount of data they are trained on. So the question becomes, it's not about the answers, right? It's not about that I ask you a question and you should give me an answer. The answer is already there. It's about what kind of questions you should ask me. That is more important. And that is very apt for the industries as well today. Because when you say join a business and you want to solve a problem, you can't expect the stakeholder to tell you the exact, ask you the exact question. They will give you ambiguous problems. And the best data scientists or the data analysts I've seen are people who are very good at asking the good questions and have a lot of curiosity. So I think that is what we should inculcate in other aspiring generation of data analysts and even the children who are right now going and doing their schooling and education. So critical thinking, I feel, should be the topmost priority in education system if it's already not there.
Perfect. And I think coming to the topic that's probably the most closest to my heart personally, right? So it's mobility, and mobility is this industry where there's a lot of churn. Like what works today might not work tomorrow. It's that kind of an industry, right? And you were part of the mobility industry in a much more chaotic situation in the sense that you were working with Zoom Car during COVID. So how was your experience with working with a lot of chaos and such a weird situation that no one has ever seen before? So what was your experience, Arpit?
Yeah, as you said, mobility is a chaotic industry. And the other thing with mobility is an asset-heavy business. As compared to other business, for example, you have an app, you can go and play game, right? There's no capex in that business. But mobility, imagine Zoom Car. Zoom Car had to buy so many cars, finance so many cars, and then let it out to customers, and then do the maintenance if anything breaks down. Right. So first of all, it's a very high stake business. It has returns, but it is a very high stake business. Right. Second is the behavior of customers. That was one of the challenge. When you drive your own car, you're very careful about it. But when you drive someone else's car, probably not so much. And this is what we used to see that, because of a lot of accidents that are happening, carelessness in driving, high speed driving, the car used to go to maintenance quite often, and that would shoot up the insurance cost. And also, like, it's an opportunity cost that you can't give a car out for booking if it's in the repair shop. So these are some of the challenges we handled. And one of the projects that we worked on there was building India's first real-time driver scoring system for passenger cars. And the idea was that probably users already know how to drive well. It's just a guidance for them, telling them whether you're driving well or not and where you're making mistakes. So it's basically a scoring system out of 100, where It classifies at every point of time in your trip into good, average, and bad. And it tells you if you made a sharp turn, if you had hard acceleration or hard braking, or things like those, or you did tailgating behind a car, and you should not do. And it got, once we released this feature onto the app of Zoom Car, we saw that the accidents went down by 20%, maintenance costs went down by 25%, right? And it had a very positive impact on the unit economics of the company.
Got it. So now I think this is an interesting space, right? So where you said that the customer behavior in turn led to a dip in your revenue, and then like you basically figured out. So how do you generally like look at this problem, right? So does the problem come to you as just increase the revenue, or do you start looking at, hey, what are those things that potentially could cause trouble, and then like you start looking at those issues? So how do you use data to basically like converge to that single point that this is the problem, and then like I'll have to come with some solutions for it?
I think that's a great question. And that is where our data leaders come into play. Because imagine that there are different business functions, like finance would think about finance and unit economics. Operations would think about whether people are getting the cars on time, right? Data sits at the center. So data needs to make sure that it devises the right metrics that measures the company goals, right? And we can go to any level of metric. So when our data leaders come into play, like for example, when I joined Zoomcar, we defined what does good look like. And good can look like from a perspective of finance. It can good look like from a perspective of repeat behavior, from a perspective of number of accidents that are happening, number of damages, and things like those. So, and we used to have a bi-weekly meeting with the leadership where no one asked for it, but we used to tell them all the key metrics that are important for the business and the trends around those. So it became proactive. So before the damage happened, we could see the damage is starting to happen, and then have a leadership buy-in and assess whether this damage, if increased, can cause significant damage to the business, and should we look into it and kind of make a V team and start working on it with a cross-functional group and a focused objective.
Good, absolutely. I think it makes sense to proactively identify those issues that you are aware of and then try fixing it. Yeah, and probably slightly shifting into your experience with Meta. So Meta has a lot of data.
Yeah.
They probably collect the maximum data that we are aware of. So now the size of the data that you have to process is so much, it's completely different. So now how do you look at the data now that you will have to look at a single problem? Okay, this is the customer problem, or this is the problem for the organization. Now with that amount of data, how do you start looking at it?
Now, when you have so much of data, that also becomes a problem at some point of time, right? Because you're managing the data, there's a cost associated with the data, and then how to use the right data. There are few things that we should look at while trying to mitigate those kind of problems. Is structure your data well. For example, have data marts. A data mart can be, this is the finance data mart, where all things related to finance, all metrics related to finance are there. This is a product data mart, where anything, all the new product experiments we are doing, all the features, flags of whether this is on experiment or not, this user is on experiment, holdout group, test group. So those things would be there, right? And similarly, have a structure of data like that. Second is kind of a data catalog, which helps you search the data very quickly. Now imagine there's someone new coming to the company. Now they don't know the history. So can they just search that, I'm looking for this metric. And then that kind of data mart comes up and the kind of core tables come up. The third thing we used to do was verifying tables. Now, because every day you're creating data, you're creating temporary tables, new tables. So we used to revisit all the tables like once in 2 weeks and say, okay, these are verified. These are maintained by our analysts or data engineers, and these are not. So any consumer would get to know whether I can use it or not. And then also assign an owner to that. Mm-hmm. So all those things are, first of all, a good data governance practice, but also it increases accessibility of data across the organization, even to stakeholders. They can search for it and use it. And the last thing is, and the most important thing is, you should know exactly what you're trying to solve and not boil the ocean. If you're solving a particular problem, let's say I want to find out who are the star performers in my operating team, who had the maximum sales. So I should just go to the sales data and then know the right tables and figure it out. So does your organization structure and data structure allow you to be that focused in your approach when you know the right problem?
Got it. And I think we can't skip talking about Meta without talking about Metaverse, right? So given the current situations where there's a lot of discussion around the work from home, remote work, hybrid work,
Yeah.
work from office, how do you think? Probably you've looked at probably at close. So how do you think the data points to from the metaverse perspective that things could drastically change in the near future?
Yeah. So I think every day is a continuous learning. Metaverse is a absolutely new concept. It's a vision, I could say. It's an innovative vision where the company invests and with the right mindset that they want to make people more connected. So previously, people are connected, let's say, for example, today through Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, but it's a two-dimensional connection, right? There's an opportunity of including body language to it. A lot of communication happens through body language, right? So there are video calls, but imagine that you are able to see a person almost like hyper reality, hyper realistic avatars. And that is supposed to improve the level of communication, level of understanding, and the connection between two individuals, irrespective of where they are in the world. I think that was the thought of connecting people, and Metaverse can do it well. And then the thing that I worked on there was a product called Workrooms and Quest for Business. Now, how data can be used, for example, there was that we used to understand what are people using the product for. For example, Workrooms is for team collaboration. So are they using the whiteboard? Are they using the mouse? Are they using hand tracking feature? Where are they facing problems? Like which features are they using again and again and spending a lot of time? How much time does it take for them to join a meeting through the virtual headset? And all those things are basically done by data team and try to understand where do customers like a product, where do customers, because of which features customers retain to a product and which we need to improve upon. So all this is can be done by data analytics.
Got it. And probably just to summarize all your work experience, right? Is there one like that stands out? It could be the organization, it could be the fun project that you worked on. So that one thing that I did like that satisfied me the most.
For me, it has to be when I was working with fashion brands. And the reason is because you can see the impact immediately. For example, you use data to put more customized inventory in a store. You can see the sales going up. You can see the customers more satisfied and the business having more profitability, right? We also did analytics on how can the staff at the store be trained using the data and verbatim we used to get from our customers, and what are the kind of things they should do to delight customers, right? So you could see the customers being more happy, sharing more social media mentions about the brand and about the good things that are being done while selling the brand and the clothes. So, and it was also more about people having a very united vision of making it successful. A lot of big companies have very big visions, but they are fragmented across the organization. But when I was working with a fashion brand, we had one mission. That was mission happiness. And that's why it stands out for me.
Got it. So right now you are working with Zenia Consulting, right? So can you talk to us about what Zenia Consulting does and what your role there is? What problems are you trying to solve?
Yeah. So Zenia is into life insurance and annuities. It's one of the biggest players in US market, North American market. And the company is serving insurance and annuities like an end-to-end value chain. It helps companies develop products. It helps sell policies, like it's an aggregator as well. And it also acts as a third-party administrator to service those policies or maintain those policies and do things like claim processing or changes in policies. So it's an end-to-end value chain. Some of the key problems that we are trying to solve right now is twofold that I'm working on right now is when we process so many policies, like there are millions of policies that are there, right? And there are so many requests that come to our team. And now there are a handful of operations associates who would be dealing with those requests. Now, and every client has a different policy. Imagine. So there's so many permutation and combination. The idea is that first of all, how do you have the right kind of resourcing? What should be the capacity, like doing capacity modeling on who should be working on what and how many people should be working on this so that you have the maximum ROI with the least amount of people. Right? So that is one. Second is, for example, how do you maintain your day-to-day business? How do you do your queue management? Like, let's say there's a huge queue and a huge backlog of work that you have to get done today, right? And every clients want to get it done. How do you prioritize that, right? What kind of variables do you use to prioritize your queue. So these are two projects that we are working on right now: queue management and capacity modeling.
Got it. And insurance is what we call your legacy business, right? So it's been there for ages. So how important is data for leading to a transformation for not just the business but for the customers as well, right? If you take example of in Indian market, a lot of places that I've seen transactions for insurance still happens through papers.
Yeah.
So of course there is this like movement in terms of it getting automated, but how do you think that data can support in making the whole process better?
Yeah. I feel there are three ways in which it can really support in making it better. First is personalized selling. Now, when someone comes onto your website to buy a policy, can we have personalized products for them? Do we understand their profile, their risk profile, the kind of things? And generally, you will see in insurance companies or annuity companies, they'll make you fill a questionnaire on a website and to understand your different health condition and the type of things you're looking for to insure. And can you do a customized product for them? Right. So I think that is one. Second one I feel is in basically claim management and fraud assessment. So imagine someone comes for claims, right? And this is a very heavy amount that they are claiming for. So how can you use artificial intelligence to make sure that the type of claims that are making are actually genuine? How do you make sure that these users are not fraudulent, or this is not a fraudulent activity? And and data has proven to be very successfully used in these cases. And the third I feel is in the processing of the policies itself. Now, policies are usually paper based. Can you extract that information and make it easier both for our consumers and for the processors inside the company to process those requests and use things like OCR, natural language processing, to serve customer requirements? And all of these, if very efficiently done, can really increase the ROI for insurance industries.
Got it. And I think goes back to the point that you touched upon, even in the fashion business, right? In fashion or in insurance, the legacy businesses, how do you then bring the culture of bringing data at the foreground, right? Because they're used to a certain set of processes.
Yes.
Now it's difficult to suddenly go that, hey, the data says this, why don't you do X, Y, Z, right? So how do you bring about the culture of bringing the entire organizations, the legacy organization specific, to start using data or looking at it much more seriously?
Yeah. Again, there are a couple of points I would say that I have found to be very reasonably successful. First is data accessibility. Data should not reside in the hands of a few people. As long as you isolate data, you isolate the mindset that, whether you should use data or not. Teams, irrespective of the function, should be empowered by data. Now, it can be through dashboards. It can be through this AI systems, and you just put the data into an AI system and get the answers. It can be through many of the product analytics tools in today's world, like Mixpanel, Amplitude, where you can get off-the-shelf analytics, create user journeys very quickly. So yeah, first is data accessibility. Second, I feel, is recognizing data impact. Even if you have a small win, celebrate it, because this is what culture we want to inculcate, right? And the third is that I feel instead of boiling the ocean, we should take baby steps. Understand the business objectives. Define your data roadmap on what are the key projects we should do. Pick one project, probably that's a quick win. Demonstrate the quick win. Get the leadership buy-in to do an implementation or take actions on it. Track the business ROI based on that action, and make that a success story, and it becomes a flywheel. So you have to be patient, take baby steps, show quick wins, and then it kind of goes from there.
Perfect. And you did just touch upon AI, right? No podcast, at least in the recent days, is done without use of AI. But there are a lot of changes that are happening in the field of AI, right? And probably just to give you an example, I work as a product manager. 5 years back, for me to process a particular data, I will have to get in touch with a business analyst or a data analyst, give them a data, say that these are the questions I want answers to. But today what has happened is I could just upload the data to Copilot or ChatGPT. I can ask those questions that I have. Not only does it answer those questions quickly, but it also directly helps me understand the problem much more closer, right? So I don't have to wait for a particular person. So it's two things. One is, do I need someone else to help me out? Another is, of course, I'm getting the results much more faster. So how do you think AI is affecting or impacting the whole data space in terms of how do students or professionals in the field have to be, what do they have to be aware of with respect to AI and the trends that keep data changing on a daily basis now?
Yeah. I feel that AI is great for increasing productivity of data analyst. With the advancement of AI, analysts will get to do what they should be doing. For example, I see a lot of companies I've worked with, either my personal experience or through my friends and colleagues, that most of the analytics team are doing what they're doing is just cleaning data and building reports. Now, this is important. But can AI help us with this? Probably yes, right? So that's a better use. So a better use for human labor could be where more intellect is required. For example, if AI helps you with data cleaning, if AI helps you in building dashboards, then you can use the human intellect to actually take out insights from data and plan actions. And that needs domain knowledge. It's very difficult for an AI tool to have domain knowledge specific to your company unless you train it, right? And that is where a data analyst can play a major role. And that also requires a mindset shift. We should not view analytics as learning tools and techniques. Analytics has to be empowered by tools and techniques, but is actually at the core just problem solving and having a domain expertise over time.
Perfect. And I think the other topic that you probably touch a little bit was about the gut, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders these days say that go with your gut. It's your instinct that takes you places, right? And the other, it's probably the entire opposite side of the spectrum of go with data.
Yeah.
So how do you find the right mix or right balance between go with data and go with a gut?
So if you see till now, data has come only recently. I would say from 2000s onwards, the use of data science, analytics is booming, right? If you see traditional businesses, they have been kind of based on intuition or based on gut. But they were taken by people who were experienced. Experience and gut go well together to some extent. But inexperience and gut can lead to disasters. Imagine you asking a child to go by his gut, right? Versus an experienced person who has gone through a lot of failures and learning to go by his gut. So I would not dismiss that going by gut is bad. The only problem with going by gut is bias it can have. For example, let's say you're making a product for a certain type of audience, let's say in Tier 2 and Tier 3 city, but you live in a Tier 1 city. I would really question if you would go by your gut, because you don't have the same type of experience that they would be having or challenges they would be suffering into this. So going by gut is important, but you should analyze yourself whether you have the right experience to go by your gut. And wherever you feel you don't have, and let's say it's a new product, you don't have a lot of data as well, you might as well do some customer research, do some customer focus group discussion, some surveys to just validate your gut, or indulge with experts in the field who might have built products for that kind of audience and just validate and see their point of view. So you need to embrace and be okay with not knowing everything, right? So gut is okay.
Do you have any tough decisions that you had to make because the data pointed you to do it?
Tough decisions related to product, probably, right?
It could be product, it could be the human resources, it could be anything.
Yeah, there are a couple of decisions that come to our mind. As one related to product and one related to people. Probably I'll touch upon both of them for a while. The related to product was that let's say we were in Khata Book. When I was in Khata Book had multiple products, and we were looking at PMF stories for each of the products and how much do we invest, right? And we had to take a hard call based on data because our retention numbers weren't great. And there was a saturation level for the amount of TAM we have in the market for that product. And we knew that it's basically probably a recipe for failure at some point of time. And even the competitors were struggling, so not a right bet. But a lot of investment had gone into it. Now it could be twofold, right? You can continue doing it, have a belief, but the company was really good in terms of data-driven culture and took a call to, shut down that product, line of product. So the data team kind of helped them, come up with a PM story, showed them the mirror of how the customers feel about the product. And the second one around people that comes to mind is probably in Meta. And I think it's very famous, not for the right reason, that Meta had done a lot of layoffs. And as a leader, you have to be a part of it in a way for the right things, that you need to be very aligned to the company's business objectives. And during these times, a lot of times you have to reorganize or restructure your teams for the business objectives. And at that point of time, I had to take some tough calls on how to best support my team members whose the projects that they're working on probably are not really aligned to company's priorities. Give them the best support, right, internally, like moving roles internally, showing them opportunities, which other teams they can work for. Or even if we had to let them go, unfortunately, then giving them the right outplacement support.
So I think we've discussed a lot of things in a generic term, right? So how do you have the entire process, sorted out? Say, okay, this is how I have to set up a team. What does the team do on a daily basis? It could be the data science team, it could be a data analytics team, and so on, right? So how do you structure a team, and how do you think that the team works on a daily basis?
So the answer to this is there's no one answer to it. It totally and wholly and solely depends on the type of organization and the objectives of that organization and the life cycle of the product of that organization. Let's say, for example, there's an organization that is just launching a product. Let's say the seed company or Series A, Series B company. They are still to figure out a product market fit. They have done an MVP. People liked it. At that point of time, the kind of skill sets that are required are absolutely different. Probably I would go for one or two more senior resources because there's a lot of ambiguity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I need someone to structure the problem and ask the right questions. So we would hire more senior resources to start with, and as we get more traction, right, we will hire more and more, onboard more and more people on the team. Whereas for other companies, let's say for Meta, a big giant, tech giant, we would have very set business objectives. So the idea was to first look at business objectives, see that what should be the data roadmap to really propel these business objectives. What are the kind of problems you should solve from data? And then see what are the right skill sets that we need to solve these problems. And then how is that a mix of seniority, who should be solving these problems, what are the kind of different domain knowledge we need to hire. Once that is done, the next step in the process comes like, how do you interact internally? And my learning has been, don't create teams in silos. It has terribly failed over time. Now, the best way, according to my experience, is create squads. Squads are a unit of people who have a common business objectives that very tightly align with the overall business objective of the company, right? Let's say, for example, for a retail company, it could be reducing your return rates of your orders. And then they have a product manager, engineering manager, a data analyst, and so on and so forth, who bring different flavors and different value to solving that problem. They have their weekly meetings, discuss what they're working on, discuss the progress, discuss the challenges, and then keep working on it till they solve the problem. Do experimentation. Now, data analysts would help in doing a lot of experimentation, proactively figure out the underlying patterns in data, right? If we are launching something, whether it's working out or not, and bring that statistics knowledge to make sure that, whether it is good enough to make a decision or not, right? And the third, which I find should be a part of process, but is not, is really tracking the results. A lot of times I've seen that when we launch our products, and let's say we did an initial rollout for 1 month, and if we get a good traction, people are happy, and we never touch that data again. But the thing is, a lot of times in the first month, it could be a novelty effect, or it could be that demands have changed over time. So how do you make sure that the device metrics that are more long-term, even not feature-specific, but more long-term, and have that as a part of process, and keep looking at the target or the goals at an overall level, and have metrics as a core part of your weekly planning exercise. So I think if these processes are in place, it's great. Apart from that, obviously from a data perspective, one of the processes that we need is how do we make sure that the team is motivated, they are mentored, and they are up to date. So how do you create that support system of mentorship, or give them right resources, and carve out that time for them that they only spend on learning new things?
And probably an extension to it is you do all this work and then it ends up in a report to the leadership or to whoever is the person owning it. So how do you drive the report or the insights that you have into action?
Yeah.
So it's sometimes it's like, the data could be contradictory, or, they might have different thoughts.
Yeah.
Like we spoke about the guts, but how do we use data to actually push for an action or a call for an action?
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, this is one of the biggest problems most of the analysts face, that they give what is required. They think they give what is required, but they don't see any actions. This can happen for two reasons. First is the insights from the report are not actionable. Second is there is no clear ownership of who is driving the impact. And actually, there's a third one, that probably there was not enough executive buy-in for this problem, and it's not a priority for them. So first of all, we need to understand that out of these three levers, which one is going wrong? Are we working on the wrong problem, and that's why we're not getting traction? Or do we really think, have we vetted that with some of the business domain expert, that are these insights actionable? Are these deep enough to take an action, or they need another round of analysis? Right? So yeah, so these things are important. I think it depends on where we are going wrong. But if we see from these parameters, these lenses, we'll be able to figure it out.
Perfect. And I while I was browsing your profile, I did come across this post that you had probably written a couple of years back, which spoke about you wanting to mentor people. Right? It said that I'm in a privileged state that I want to figure out how do I want to mentor people, but I'm not sure how do I start mentoring people. Right? I am little lucky in that space that Great Lakes offered me the opportunity to mentor the students that are currently pursuing their degree, in terms of helping them out with interview preparation, or helping them out with the resume and so on. But how do you actually start this whole process of trying to mentor someone?
Yeah, I think first it starts with having a strong desire to mentor. And that kind of comes with a sense of having gratitude for what you have achieved till now. When you talked about that post, I think I wrote that post when I felt that probably I'm not grateful enough for what I've got. And I see a lot of people who have probably much less, like in objective sense, right, of either position or salaries or the type of work that they're doing, but they're doing much more for the society. Whether it's educating aspiring professionals, whether it's just giving back in non-professional formats. And I felt that probably I should be doing more of it. And that's why I wrote that post. And I still feel the same. So currently I've started doing more lectures for students, at least my alumni college in BITS, and also helping take interviews for MBA students in various colleges, and just writing back what I've learned through LinkedIn or through Medium posts, something like that. And also I have asked all the students or even professionals, right, to just write to me. I've given my email ID, and if they have some questions, and I would look them over the weekend, and whichever I could answer, I will try to answer. So I'm trying to do my bit. I'm still far away from the amount I want to do, probably due to the paucity of time. But I think with the right intention, I should be able to figure it out over time.
Perfect. I think with the person so busy as you, wanting to mentor and making time to mentor, I'm sure a lot of people watching this would start looking at mentoring others as well. But I think I have a bunch of questions relating to some advice for our students as well as the professionals. So one thing is the data science, business analyst. These are kind of your more looked after roles right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of buzz around these roles, right? But how do I, as a student, take the call that this is something that I want to actually do, or this is a right fit for me? right? Because I just go with the flow, right now this is the trend, or do I have to be aware of something else, right? Because there's always a rosy picture that's painted out, the data scientists do this and that, but there's also some of the difficulties that they go through.
Yeah.
So what should the students or the professionals be aware of before taking that step into roles such as data scientist or business analyst?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because not every role is for everyone, right? And not everyone should be doing the same thing. They should be trying out different things. Um, but I also acknowledge the human emotions of following the herd and doing and not feeling left behind and having a sense of FOMO, especially in the today's generation. I think a few things that I would encourage would be experimenting early and embracing failures. If you feel that you should be doing it, try it out. That's the only way you'll get the answer, not by someone telling you whether it's right or wrong, because the more you try in your early years, in your 20s, the more successful and more stable you would be in mindset on what you want to do in your 30s. And probably not trying enough would leave you with some sense of guilt or regret later on, that, probably I should have tried this, right? You should still go ahead and do it in later years if you feel like. But for example, in today's education system in universities, if you want to try out business analyst role, they have included analytics courses or electives, or you can go do it offline, do some capstone projects and try to see whether you actually like it, whether you have appetite for that or not, or take some roles in the industry when you graduate and try it. And, you can be successful or you can fail and learn.
And there is also recently a lot of focus on the tools that you need to learn. It could be Python or it could be the other topics, right? So do you also look at data science or the data analytics as your expertise in a tool, or is it something beyond just the knowledge of a particular tool?
Yeah, so if we were to evaluate it from expertise of a tool, then ChatGPT would be the best data analyst, right? So it's not really a tool. Tool definitely is important because it helps you manipulate, not the word manipulate, but it helps you slice and dice the data to give you the right answer. That's all. But if you don't understand the problem, if you don't know the domain to give the insights from data, or if you don't do the right amount of storytelling to influence without authority, you won't be successful as a data analyst, right? So to be a successful data analyst, learn the tools, but try to practice real business problems, and learn the domain. Try to make sure that how is this data useful for my organization? Try to question yourself. Do you need something else? Can you take decision on it? Can you convince someone to take decision on it? Yes or no? And then go a step further. One of the key things I feel is very important and probably overlooked right now is storytelling. I would really encourage all the schools to focus on storytelling, because it's not about the data, it's about the art of presenting that data and influencing people to take actions. That is equally important, sometimes more important than the data itself.
So now that we've touched the part of the storytelling, right? So what are maybe the one or two technical skills that a student or a professional wanting to enter the data streams need to learn?
See, from a technical skills standpoint, it would come out to learning the tools and languages like Python or probably R, and having a right skill set of SQL. Right? Technically, you should be able to use some good tools. It could be self-serve product analytics tools, like I mentioned, Mixpanel, Amplitude, or visualization tools like Tableau, Power BI. I would say that these are vanilla technical skills that you should have. If you want to go into the field of data science, where I say like machine learning, you should pick up and try to master machine learning concepts, ML concepts, like different algorithms that are there, whether it's neural networks or traditional AI algorithms like random forest, XGBoost, and so on. So these are technical skills that every data analyst should have if they are serious about their career, but we need a way to practice them. Because humans forget very often, right? They only learn from their experiences and their failures. So you need an opportunity for them to fail and test it out, right? And that is where internships, jobs, even projects inside the colleges are very handy.
Got it. And now that you have a varied amount of exposure, right, be it startups or scaled up companies or MNCs like Meta, if you go back in time to your first project or the second project that you did with Musigma,
Yeah.
how would you handle that problem now?
I think, as I said in one of my answers, is I would focus more on storytelling. I remember a time in Mu Sigma, I was good at analyzing data as such, like slicing and dicing data. But when it comes to connecting what the client wants out of it, what problem they're trying to solve, and is my data helping them take a decision to solve that problem or not? Or is it deep enough to take a decision? And then how you paint that story, whether it's a presentation, whether it's a visualization in Tableau, like, right? I think that is where I would have focused more if I would have gone back, and that would have yielded more results.
Got it. And in your experience with Katabook, you've built a team from scratch, a lot of young professionals that you've groomed. What is that one thing that you learn from the young professionals that just join you, right? Because you've had a lot of experience, a lot of exposure, but
Yeah.
someone who's just starting out but might have a different perspective. So what is that something that you've learned from them?
Yeah. So, Khata Book was a great experience in terms of building teams and a lot of learnings and a lot of failures at that point of time. One of my few cherished learnings are that when you grow a team, you need to give them the right support, especially when you're hiring fresh out of college. Do you have a strong onboarding system, for example? A strong amount of trainings? Do you have a strong buddy system that if someone comes, they can look up to someone senior in the organization to help them out and be more productive readily, because you're kind of throwing them on the ground without giving proper training. The other thing is the focus on career development. And this is where I think the big giants are really good at it. For example, I would really appreciate Meta in this sense that if you want to be a great manager, you should join Google and Meta to test it out, like whether you are a great manager or not, because they really grill you 360 degrees, right? You get feedback, and that feedback is considered as a part of your appraisal and calibrations that you get from your team, right? And you're only as successful as your team is at the end of the day, right? So in Khatabok, going back to Khatabok, like having a strong coaching system, and who can coach? You need to have a manager layer to coach the juniors, right? So having a good manager layer first, and then hiring your team is pretty important, and then carving out time to make sure that your career conversation are part of your daily routine, right? And then not just work and getting work done. So those are things I learned when I grew the team. There were some things I failed in, right? For example, we could not hire the middle management layer as quickly as we would have wanted to. But then that was a learning, and then we made sure we hired that layer first so that there's enough amount of coaching for the.
Got it. And what is this one belief that you have, like, on data that has never failed you, right? Be it any type of role that you've been in, or any organization or any industry that you've been in. What do you say that is that one belief that you have?
One belief that I have is data, if used correctly, always tells the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be people that you will encounter that have a very strong experience and gut feeling that this is wrong. But if you are confident that you have used the data correctly, when I say correctly, it means that you have considered all the different hypotheses that could have happened. You have the data for various aspects of that problem. You have used the right methods to come to a data point and a solution. Data is more powerful in influencing than anything else, right? So data shows you the mirror. This is my closest to my heart, that and I feel privileged to be at the center of the table where I can lead with data, which probably other functions sometimes are not that privileged. They have to depend on the data team to make their point,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, so data tells the truth if used correctly.
Got it. But just to look at the flip side of it, there are like a lot of startups that are coming up, and you do not have any data.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that business?
Yeah, that's a very valid question. So the way we approach that business is, what is data? Data is someone telling us how the consumers are using a product. As simple as that, right? If I click on a button, that is the data. If I buy something, that is the data. If I visit a website, that's the data. Now you have to think about is there a different way I can get this information? Right? And the kind of question I'm trying to answer is that, do you need this product? Do you have a demand? If I give you this product, do you like it? Would you buy it? How can we create proxies? A lot of times, things like doing surveys from your customers, showing them a prototype, showing them the design, and then asking them in a focus group discussion, what would you like to change? That is generating data. So if you don't have data, then generate data. Look at social media. Let's say you launch something. Look at the social media verbatims or mentions that you're getting, and try to see, first of all, how are the people reacting to your product. Second is, if you're building a product and you know the space you're building, look at the competitors. Look at what, not only just the product that's selling, but what are the customers saying about the competitors. Why can't you learn from the mistakes of your competitors? And then take that as a data point into the data. And the third is experimentation. If you don't know, if you don't have data, the best way to do it is just launch it, a minimal viable product, and have a robust system to get the data back on the learnings and whether people like it or not, whether they are doing a repeat purchase of that product or not, and then maneuver your strategy accordingly.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Arpit, for your time and sharing all your insights with us. I hope we have a lot of students and other professionals watching this are having a lot of insights from Arpit and his experience.
Thank you very much, Ganesh.